One moment. The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda, to approve the minutes? It's been moved and properly second, moved by Councilmember One, second by Councilmember Amos. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Mr. Johnson, how many speakers do we have signed up for public comment? I see we have 3, and the first speaker is Ms. Lori M. Anderson. So she stepped out for a second. We'll go to the second speaker, and we're gonna, actually she yielded time to Kevin Ross. And so the first speaker will be Mr. Kevin Ross.
Good morning, members of the committee. I appear before you again on the legislation related to the shuttle terminal or terminal shuttle contract, 23R4352. I sometimes think a good analogy or metaphor can help make a point. And this morning, as I was thinking about this particular legislation, I thought about the childhood nursery rhyme that deals with Humpty Dumpty. And we all know it. And the essence of that nursery rhyme is that sometimes something is so broken and it's so flawed that it can't be made right, can't be fixed, can't be put back together again. I would submit to you that this legislation that would approve the recommended award to ABM All-in-One Security Services is a perfect example of the metaphor that's at the essence of the Humpty Dumpty nursery rhyme. This thing cannot be made right. I won't repeat a number of things that have said before the committee or before full council, but I want to hit the points again, which is one, and this is the biggest point, is that the Department of Procurement, I presume in conjunction with the using agency, wrote a contract requirement, a contract specification, and then promptly proceeded to ignore that contract specification in the procurement process. Clear and unambiguous language that we've referenced before, that this was to be a contract award to a small business enterprise. And if it was a joint venture, at least 50% of that joint venture needed to be a small business enterprise. And this proposed award that's at the bottom of this legislation simply doesn't meet the contract spec. That's fundamental. The bidders and the public have a right to expect that public procurement will follow the rules that are set out by the government. Second thing that we spoke to, which we learned from the Inspector General, your Inspector General here in the city, is that there was a change in the scoring methodology during the procurement. That again is a fundamental flaw and something that goes against the very basics of a fair and properly administered procurement. You can't change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. The iPro report spoke to other things, including improper contact during the blackout period, and all of those things collectively lead to the inescapable conclusion that this can't be fixed, this can't be put back together again. At the Transportation Committee meeting when this legislation first appeared, Councilman Amos made a motion to file. And that motion, I believe, died for lack of a second. And the legislation at that time bore his name. He requested it be taken off, and it was amended. And then it moved forward, and as we know, it's been sent back to this committee by the full council at the request of the administration. So I speak this morning to say to you that Councilman Amos actually got it right on the first go-around. This can't be fixed. It can be repaired. The recommendation to ABM is contrary to the requirements of the procurement. And as a result, my request this morning is that the committee vote to file this legislation not have it go forward again, not have it remain under further consideration. It is simply too flawed and too broken for it to go forward. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you, Mr. Ross. I'm having a few problems with this chair up here, so excuse me if I stand and sit down a few times. The next speaker would be Mr. Vic Bolton.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the council and committee. Good to see y'all. Hope y'all had a nice holiday break from listening to us. I want to draw your attention briefly to a philosophical point. I think enough has been said about this flawed terminal-to-terminal procurement for you to know that it can and won't go forward as is. It's got to be redone, reworked, something for it to go forward. But I'm reminded of a favorite movie scene of mine, which is the Jack Nicholson tirade on the witness stand in A Few Good Men, where he basically says, you know, we live in a world that's got walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. And who's going to do it? You. We are the Marines, and it's our job to stand on the wall with a rifle and protect you and make sure that you are safe. So I would submit to you today that there are members of even of this committee, but of this council, who have in so many words said that there's a problem with this. We can see that, but it's not our problem. Or yes, there's some flaws, but we're not going to fix that today. Or yeah, there's some things here that it looks like somebody tried to hide or gloss over or keep moving past, but that's another thing for another time. And what that basically says, some of these speakers were people who are themselves in classes that would be considered disadvantaged, minorities, or other groups that have various protections under law because of who they are. Some of those speakers were basically saying, if this one minority vendor goes under, it's okay. We might sink this one ship, but the Navy's got to keep sailing, and we can't take the time to fix a problem. I would submit to you that you are our procurement Marines. Members of this council, you're the legislative body, and it's your job to make sure that minority companies, that small companies, that Atlanta-based companies have a fair shot. Nobody's asking for anything but a fair opportunity to pursue the opportunity to be successful and to do business in Atlanta. You are the Marines on the wall of the procurement of the city, and it's your job to say no when a flawed or imperfect or erroneous piece of paper comes your way. It's not to skip it through and say, we don't have time to stop and mess with that. That's why we hired each of you at the polls, was to mess with that on our behalf. So what I'm asking for today is that you would file this procurement, because there's no way it's going to go forward. We've already entered into a window where a transition can't happen. There's already a discussion going on about an extension, because we know we can't make this happen by the time the current contract expires. But what we don't want is for this to sit held and have to come down here every cycle to watch over that wall to make sure that this thing doesn't pop up and create a problem. So what we're asking is that you kill this once and for all, and that you require procurement to issue another request, an RFP, and then we go through the process and choose a proper awardee. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Vic Bolton. And anytime somebody's talking about the Navy, I feel good, because we understand we fight how we train, and we train how we fight. The next speaker is Mr. Darrell Anderson.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Darrell Anderson. I'm the owner of A National Limousine, a small business, excuse me, a small business located off of Metropolitan that's been operating in Atlanta for 41 years, and one that I think most of us are proud to have in the community, especially your district, Councilman Lewis, District 12. I'm here today, as the previous speaker, Kevin Ross and Vic has spoken concerning the terminal shuttle, which I've operated for the last 6 years. This has been such a disappointing experience for an airport and a city that I'm so prideful in, that has gone down a road that we should not had to have gotten here. One of the things we have not held accountable for was, how did we get here? We got here because there was an RFP put out that should have gone by the guidelines that the user agency, let me be very clear, the user agency, not OCC, the language that we referred to, and please remember this, 2.2.2 was put in there by the user agency. In this case, it happens to be the Department of Aviation. This solicitation has been put out 4 different times. The last 3 iterations, the same language was there. Now, you guys have been accused of not reading information. Somebody in the user agency didn't read their own information that they put out. They made a sacrificial lamb about OCC guy, and rightly so to a certain degree, because he has failed us too. But how are we going to let the user agency, where all of this started, and they deflected to OCC, but that language comes in the body of this RFP from the user agency. The user agency is responsible for that information and for those minimum qualifications. They should acknowledge it. They should agree that it was there and that they did not follow. The fact that they didn't, we're asking that this paper be filed based on the IPRO report. And I was educated on the IPRO report by the Inspector General. The IPRO report does not green light any legislation. It only gives you all the information to look at the different areas in the solicitation that should be looked at. They go through it and put out, and in this case, there were 11 different items that raised some severe red flags. So I'm asking you guys to pull this paper, to file it, so it'll never see daylight again until this can be done right, and whatever changes that need to be done so that all small businesses have a fair opportunity to compete. That's what it's about at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for coming in. And once again, we do like your business in District 12, how you was able to ride down Metropolitan Parkway with a transportation business, knowing that was the worst street in the state of Georgia. I don't know how you did that for so long. Thank you again. Mr. Johnson, do we have any more? Well, I don't see any more speakers. Is there anyone else who would like to speak today? And because they missed the speaker sign-up sheet, sir, if you can say your name. If we have no objections from the council, we have one person who missed the sign-up sheet. If we have no objections, I would like to have that person speak as well. Seeing none.
Good morning.
So, sir, please say your name, because you're going to have to sign this eventually just to put it in a council record.
Yes, sir. My name is, excuse me. My name is Jerome Campbell, and I represent the homeless as the advocate. I have a lot of questions from businesses that when I go out through Atlanta and the metropolitan area, I visit different businesses, and I get a lot of complaint about the homeless laying around their businesses and causing a lot of disturbance and keeping away a lot of customers. I've tried to get to this meeting for quite a while now, and I wanted to talk to the mayor about the city of Atlanta. I put an appointment, but I haven't heard anything from the appointment. There's a great deal of problem. There's a great problem here in Atlanta with homeless, and since I've been the advocate, I've helped a whole lot. I mean, I do my job because they ask me, because they seem not to be getting the help that they was promised. Previous mayors had promised them, and I know that to be a fact. I was out there myself, and the Lord picked me up and brought me, so I asked him to lead me to bring my peoples in as well. And in doing so, I've been trying to get where peoples are sleeping to keep the area clean, but being on the homeless and the peoples are steady bringing food and stuff to them it's hard to do. So I was looking for ways to bring them in temporary housing, whatever, to get them off the streets, because businesses are losing business because of that. And I want to get somebody on my team from this city commissioners or whatever. And I'm saying not to be getting any help, but I have a lot of other help that with helping them with the blankets and beds and things and food and things, which is going to happen anyway. But I got a ton of help, and they asked me today to come to share this because I'm serious about cleaning up Atlanta, getting homeless off the streets into permanent housing. But there's a problem with the Greyhound bus station. I monitor it weekly, and I have stayed out there every day for a week, and I had counted up to 168 people getting off the buses coming here one way. And that's the problem. But there is a solution to that problem. I won't bring it up right now because I need to talk with somebody else about it on my team. But right now, there's a lot of rundown buildings in here. I know the mayor bought the building over here, 5 Points.
And I want to let you know that your time is up, and I'll allow you 30 more seconds to complete yourself. But also, we have a constituent service office downstairs, and I know about the investment that this mayor has made into that office, creating a new department. And if you're having any issues, anybody down there, we'll walk you down there yourself.
I've been down here every day this week in the mornings, and the constituent office hadn't been open.
Okay.
And so I've been trying to talk with people about this. I've been up to the city council's office several times, and I'm still not getting any. It's throwing me off, it's brushing me away, but I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop until every last person sleeping on that street is off the streets. But I need some help. Without this city help, it's gonna be done. Because I promised them I'll do that for them, and I'm gonna hold my promise because God has me leading them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a presentation from from MARTA today. So MARTA will give us our quarterly update. Council members, you should have received a package from MARTA. If you'd not, let me know. And also, I want to let you know we've been joined by our council member from District 11, Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet.
Right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Collie Greeno, General Manager, CEO of MARTA. Happy to be here with you this morning. As you can see, our opening slide is just a homage to the retirement of Mr. Corey Dumas after 51 years with MARTA, serving the public flawlessly, 51 years with a clean driving record, which was remarkable. Pictured in the photograph is Mr. and Mrs. Dumas, Mr. Dumas's pastor and his wife, and council member Keisha Sean Waits. And I just wanted to publicly, again, acknowledge him. And while I'm doing that, I want to publicly acknowledge our MARTA City of Atlanta board members, Jennifer I, Jacob Zagabe, and Sagira Jones, who are observing online. If we can get into the agenda, you'll find it's a regular cadence of topics, and the first one being our current service. And we always start that off with our ridership update. The key message here being that ridership is gradually increasing as it has been since, largely since that precipitous drop after COVID started plaguing the city. Just like every other transit agency across the nation, MARTA is making strides to recover. We are, as you can see, we're at about 60%, at 50 and 60% in various cases on our bus and rail, and we're actually back to above pre-COVID performance in mobility and streetcar in most cases. So, I've spoken before about the things that, those things that are inside of our control when it comes to controlling ridership and how we're moving along with those cases. And then I've accepted that there are things that are outside of our control, things like remote work and the reduction of the number of people actually traveling back and forth. I won't go into the details, but I will say that MARTA's efforts can largely be compartmentalized into three buckets. So we call it C-MARTA: S for service, E for the customer experience, and E for expansion. And we'll speak a little bit more about that later on. When it comes to program highlights, one of the things that we've been keenly following is the 1,000 Amenities program, and I'm pleased to say that MARTA continues to deliver on that program. As you can see here, the goal was always 50 amenities per year, and by amenities I mean benches, semi-seats, shelters, all amenities for the bus stop. You can see that in the early fiscal years we had problems really getting that 50 number off the ground, largely due to COVID-related issues, supply chain issues, workforce availability, and also a permitting process that was less than favorable. You can see that by FY23 we got it together. Those things have been remedied. Our permitting process is far more streamlined now, and we've invested, or our contractors have invested in the resources required to really double down and get this thing done. So we're at 150 amenities on the 250 requirement by the end of this fiscal year. That means 100 remaining to go. Of that 100, 16 of them are already installed, 27 are under construction, and 57 are in various forms of permitting or design. So we will make it. Of course, this is the picture of, this is what it's all about. The previous picture was, plans and numbers, and this picture is really about what happened. So you can see on the before side our old school legacy bus stop, and the after side really speaks to the fact that there's a lot of work and communication that happens. I'm excited about the fact that the students and employees that use this bus stop, which is beginning with North Atlanta High School. PTA concerns about stop conditions, but it's at the North Atlanta High School on Northside Parkway, served by Route 12. But you can see that it now has what's required to have people waiting safely right next to the crosswalk. And in the lower picture on the right, you'll see that it's not always as easy as just putting a bus stop there or putting a shelter there. There's often civil considerations, and in this case drainage, that it's often more than meets the eye. And I also like the fact that even in the finished photo, if you look carefully, you'll see that legacy bench remains, and we have no intention of moving it. Safe routes to transit. You can see, you remember in the previous photo, you saw the crosswalk moving, taking people from the side of the street that had a sidewalk across to the bus stop that was waiting. Safe routes to transit, for those of you that don't recall, it's a relatively new program that we're kicking off. It'll help us address the approximately 20% of our high ridership bus stops that lack pedestrian infrastructure. So in November, the MARTA board approved the RFP for a design build firm to implement this. Congresswoman Nikema Williams secured $1 million to support the locations identified on the map as potential sites in the 5th Congressional District, which includes the city of Atlanta. We've identified these sites, and we will be evaluating them in partnership with you and with the ATL DOT. So the picture on the bottom there is illustrative of the type of work that's being done, where we will create the concrete pads, safe places for waiting, have sidewalks giving people access to the stop, and in some cases crosswalks. I will say that if there's a site in any of your districts that you have particular interest in, that you want to make sure gets this kind of treatment, please let us know. Contact Colleen Kiernan at MARTA, and we will do our very best to make sure your wishes are included. I just want to make sure that we keep this issue front and center. Councilmember Overstreet's keenly interested in the Niskey Lake development. So, the last time we spoke, I said that MARTA had done a site review and we'd invited ATL DOT to join us. So on October 10th, that did happen. We came to the agreement that there are sections of this route that are just too narrow. ATL DOT on October 25th has submitted some items for consideration that we may be able to do in order to get this back on track. MARTA's reviewing those recommendations now, and we will continue to work with ATL DOT In the meantime, MARTA Connect is very much in play for the residents at that location. There have been 1,236 rides taken so far from April till October, and we will continue to accommodate in that regard. The bus network redesign is fast approaching, so we're within about a year of having those efforts put the rubber to the road. We are now the owners of a final draft new network. There have been 3 focus sessions on the City of Atlanta with a lot of representatives, 15 different City of Atlanta staff attending. So we're really pleased about that. We're now doing the technical analysis of that final draft network, and then we will start a wider breadth of public engagement and briefings with council members. So we'll be back to you in detail with where that's shaping up. Let us just do the technical work on the final draft network. But again, I wanted to thank the 15 folks from City of Atlanta and ATL DOT and the mayor's office and the city planning and those agencies for participating with 1, 2, and 3-day sessions, including a follow-up. So we were really appreciative of that. Station rehab work. I want to start by saying, you know, I appreciate Councilor Amos's time. He did a walkthrough with us of Vine City Station on October 19th. So Councilmember Amos, thank you for that, making sure that hold us accountable in terms of making sure that those stations are representing the standards that you would expect. As the slide would recommend, that we're also moving forward on work at Airport Station. We've got a new second elevator shaft that's close to completion now, bringing us to 2 elevators at that location, and work on the platform and the concourse continues. Also on 5 Points, there's a lot of activities going on there. The scaffolding for the Eisman facade restoration is now in place, and demolition work is happening in various places. And of course, at Lennox Station, you can see the new pedestal pavers in the photo. In terms of the More MARTA Atlanta program, the audit is continuing. We're about 2/3 of the way through the document production required for the auditors. We've got weekly interaction with the audit team once or twice a week. The quantity and quality of production has been well received to date. As stated up there, MARTA has submitted over 7,000 pages of documentation. There are another 50 documents from 2017 to 18 that are in the pipeline to be sent this week, and they're now at the stage of scheduling interviews with staff to get a better understanding of what the documents are. And the More MARTA program spending, this is our, I apologize, it's hard to see the numbers, but this is for a visual representation of the fact that this is there and is shared with our council members. It's updated quarterly. And, I'll just point out a couple things to you, even though you can't really see it on the slide. But the good news is that it's explaining that we've started to do a lot of spending now on the design for Bankhead and Streetcar East. We're doing spending on right-of-way acquisitions for Cleveland ART and Metropolitan ART and Summerhill Rapid. And finally, we've got construction dollars flowing on Summerhill Rapid. So as I said, this is a snapshot that's updated quarterly, and we're at the stage now where we're starting to see more movement. In fact, when you get the chance to look carefully, you'll see, in the full fiscal years 20, 21, 22, 23, our total spend was, 9.2 million, 13 million, 18.7, and 18.4 million. And in the first quarter of FY24, we're at 10 million. So this gives you the sense that there's momentum now. We're into the construction on some of our projects. We're moving into final design on other projects, so that the dollars, being a lagging indicator of progress, but an indicator nonetheless, the dollars are starting to flow. A couple of project updates for you. We spoke earlier about the Rapid. Just can't say enough about the pleasure with which I state that we are now in full-on construction on MARTA Summerhill Bus Rapid Transit. So we've started work on Hank Aaron Drive corridor, starting with the southbound portion, and by the first quarter of 2024, we expect to begin the northbound portion. There are a lot of efforts to reduce neighborhood impacts and public notification. There are also multiple methods of outreach, like websites, newsletters, ATL DOT updates, regular neighborhood association meetings, quarterly NPU meetings, community events like Streets Alive, weekly social media, and grassroots canvassing. So On top of that, council members Winston and Dozier have been briefed on our communications and engagement plan for the community. You can also find this under construction signage and QR code at all of our rapid response, with our rapid response hotline number at all of our communications. So there's never any doubt in terms of where people can go for questions or concerns with the program. And so I just wanted to keep you up to speed on that. 5 Points is another project that's top of mind, and so the key message here is that we anticipate NEPA approval early in 2024, at which point we can mobilize our construction team. So you can see there that we're moving through that federal environmental process. It is exhaustive. We did not get a categorical exclusion. This is a full-on environmental impact statement, but we are working through that with the FTA. And we feel very positive and confident that we will be able to continue getting this work done. Of course, the work that's happening at 5 Points, we're at a point in time, I think I've said this before, where we will not close the lower 2 levels of 5 Points. That is where subway movement is happening at the platform levels. They will continue to be open for northbound, southbound, east and west, and transfers. But the upper levels, the mezzanine and the surface levels, will have to be closed for a certain point of amount of time in order for us to get the work started and stick to some kind of schedule. It's clear now that this project won't be finished completely in time for the World Cup, but it will have moved and will be phased in such a way that with appropriate hoarding and controls, it will be functional and aesthetically pleasing for the World Cup. And in fact, the real purpose of the work being done at 5 Points is not for the World Cup. It's for the men and women that use 5 Points in the city of Atlanta on a regular basis for generations to come. So we're confident that this work is being done right. We're not going to cut corners and rush it, and we, of course, are going to abide by the FTA NEPA requirements. Campbellton Corridor, MARTA Rapid Campbellton continues to advance. The team began working on the flyover design, connecting Greenbrier Mall to the Barge Road Park and Ride, and has received strong support from GDOT. So we're very excited about that. And it also includes an integrated bike and pedestrian pathway over the 285. So we're looking at an event in Q1 of 2024 to further engage the community and answer some questions, keeping people excited about that. And I'll also note that the Oakland City parking lot paving has been done and will be available for community events. We had received a number of requests from various organizations to give them that space. So it's been completed and we are now ready to roll in that respect. All right, a little more project update to progress to share with you, and this is Cleveland Metropolitan. We're in the final design, so our arterial rapid transit projects are nearing the construction phase. This includes, so let me just say this. We had gone out for procurement in October. We only received 1 bid, and the industry is experiencing this more and more, where there are a number of people that express interest at first. They get the bid documents, and when it's closer, when it's the deadline time, only 1 or 2 are actually applying. Clearly, we need more people involved in the bidding process because that kind of competition creates better pricing. In this case, there was 1 bid, and the bid was about 3 times higher than our independent cost estimate had anticipated. So we didn't go with that bid. We've canceled it. We're working with ATL DOT on scope. It's a kind of scope that expands the nature of the project, and we expect that might be more attractive to more bidders, and we will be rebidding this early in 2024. In the meantime, Councilman Lewis, we will be able to update the community as you have requested because it's no longer a live bid in process. So we'll be happy to schedule those and go ahead and produce those for you. And in other news, just keeping you up to date, the triennial audit reviews happen. The FTA every 3 years does a complete deep dive on our program and financial data from MARTA. In this case, it was from December 13, 2019 through October 16, 2023. The exit interview has been completed. There were only 3 areas of opportunity, and each of those areas will be resolved by the time the final report is completed, so we can anticipate no outstanding issues. We're pleased to be able to have only 3 findings and, opportunities, I'll say, because by the time the report comes out, there won't be findings. And it's noteworthy because in the industry, the transit industry, the national average is about 12 findings on these FTA triennials. So we're grateful for honorable standing in this admittedly rigorous field. The City of Atlanta Employee Fair Program is in full swing. It's a 6-month pilot. We're about 3 months in right now, and the program accommodates 1,000 participants. There have been more than 16,000 City of Atlanta trips on MARTA within the first 3 months of the program. About 25% of it was bus, and about 75% of it was done on rail. Most usage occurs during the weekdays, nearly 90% during the weekdays, and West Enders seem to make more use of the program than others. We will have a feasibility review conducted at the end of the pilot program. It began August 1st, ends January 31st, 2024. I want to thank City of Atlanta for your continued support of the camera enforcement legislation on the city's legislative agenda. MARTA intends to have legislation introduced during this upcoming General Assembly that allow local jurisdictions to opt into camera enforcement for transit-only lanes. In fact, in order to demonstrate the value of camera enforcement in BRT lane to the General Assembly, we'll be busing legislators to and from the Eggs and Issues event at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on January 10th in a dedicated lane to simulate BRT and all the benefits it brings to riders with no other lane traffic or hazards. And so we're doing that in partnership with City of Atlanta and the DOT as well. Station Soccer at East Lake was a fantastic event. We kicked that off on October 27th. That was the official kickoff. This is the 6th of 10 planned soccer pitches in our stations. It's now open and being used by Soccer in the Streets teams and other local parties. We had over 300 kids interested in joining that East Lake League. There is a cap of 200 per station in order to provide the best quality experience for each individual child. So we have wait lists for some stations, and I keep saying with each added station soccer pitch, it increases the value of the station soccer pitches that were already in existence, much like transit expansion. By building out transit anywhere in our network, you're increasing the value and access of transit for people everywhere in our network. And these kids were super excited about the idea of participating in this kind of activity and having friendly competition with kids from all over our service areas. So this is good. It serves as an amenity to the surrounding community, and it's also a good early activation tool for our TOD program. We had the Lee Street Bike Lane event where we had lots of volunteers coming out to promote this. It's an art project at the West End. We had volunteers transforming Atlanta's streets for safer cycling. Many joined us in creating tools for a protected bike lane on Lee Street. We're grateful to have Mayor Dickens, the photo on the left, come out and help paint with the community. Yes, 'tis the season. So we're continuing our tradition of spreading holiday cheer to our customers, reinforcing our commitment to the community. I mentioned earlier that we're keen on the SEE, service, experience, and expansion of MARTA. So that's the play on words there with C in 'tis the season. But we're hosting several feel-good holiday-themed activities. We've been doing that since November. We'll do it throughout the end of November. And the turnout to a lot of these events has been really, really good. And finally, Five Points Urban Nutcracker on December 14th as part of MARTA's annual customer appreciation event. We will be presenting Balethnic, which will bring back their original choreography, Urban Nutcracker. It's an Atlanta tradition that's celebrating its 30th year of delighting audiences, and this will be their 3rd appearance performing at 5 Points during the holiday season. There are 4 selected performances between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m., December 14th, 2023, and the event will feature refreshments, DJ, a Santa, and a prize wheel. We'll also be selling the ugly sweaters that some of you were provided with today. I noticed no one's wearing them, but I'm sure at some point you will be. And proceeds from that sale will go to our Warm Your Heart campaign, which is an effort to provide tools and funds for the less fortunate in our community. And with that, council members, I return the floor to you.
Thank you, CEO Greenwood. We've been joined by Councilmember Dustin Hillis and our Council President Doug Shipman. Today, probably be my last time leading the meeting this year, and so we're gonna do a little different. And I know when I was growing up in the city of Atlanta, the public was allowed to ask a few questions sometimes when we had these quarterly reports. And so if there's no issue to the council members with me today, if you'd be open to, no issue to MARTA, would you be open to members of the public being allowed to ask one question to the report? Some of the changes that we've made, like the Cleveland Avenue ART, and that we spoke about, and we're on the same page, and you're keeping me open to all the changes, but it happens so rapidly. So if there's no offense to the council or to the body in front of us, I would like to do that. Open up for Councilmember Marcy Carry Overstreet first.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I do want to start off with Niskey Lake. Thank you so much for giving us an update and for meeting with ATL DLT about it. I'm still terribly disappointed that we're still where we were months ago. And, you know, of course, this is the population that really is dependent on public transportation. They're riding MARTA because they don't have cars. And they're going to work, and they're going to school, and they're going to those economic nodes, those commerce nodes. And, you know, it saddens me that people that need us the most are not a priority, because this should be absolutely at the top of the list to widen those areas. And I know that you've been working with ATL DLT, so it's not just you. It's not just MARTA. At this point, we should have more of a resolution to that situation. It needs to be expedited, ATL DLT. We need to figure out how to make that road safe so we can put those MARTA buses or vans or whatever it takes that will stop at the stops on Niskey Lake, as people are dependent on us to do. I mean, again, no one's riding that bus going to the ball game. They're not. They're trying to get to work. So I do have one question. The signs at each stop, or the signs that we placed out there, are they still the same? Do they still say canceled? Or are they directing people with the information on how to use the MARTA Connect?
Let me check with my team. I believe that we've got updated information on those signs directing people to MARTA Connect. And as I said, we've had a large amount of usage of MARTA Connect since the day we started this diversion.
And I do appreciate that part for sure. I just want a permanent fix, you know, as soon as possible. We're ending the year, and I definitely didn't think we would be in 2024 with that bus route still down. So there's that. So I will be meeting then with ATL DLT to figure out why it's not expedited. I will do that. So thank you for that update. I will thank you also for including the audit information in your presentation, because that was my question. I wanted to know where we were with that. And I'm comfortable with the information that you provided with that. So with that, I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had the attorneys get on me for some of these changes I've made. It'll be okay. The next speaker would be Councilmember Keisha Shawn Waits.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation this morning. I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues in terms of aesthetics, and there seems to be a disparity in terms of what happens in certain stations, and I'm referring to Cleveland Avenue, those areas, East Point versus those you see in Sandy Springs and other parts of town. So what is it that we can do to improve aesthetics, the odor? And I know we have a challenge in terms of urine and things of that nature, but I just would love to see those things be priority. And another thing is we have a constituent that comes down weekly and complains about, I think, the MLK station in terms of the aesthetics. Again, there's a number of homeless individuals who sleep in these quarters, and possibly we can partner with PAD to get them the resources that they need. I'd like to work directly with you on that. And finally, do we have a preference in terms of minority contracting at the local and county level where MARTA actually is located, in the counties where MARTA does business?
A preference?
Correct.
We have a process that encourages minority-owned businesses and DBEs. MARTA specifically has DBE roundtables that we hold quarterly with monthly updates. We start with DBEs in the community that are trying to get work with MARTA, and we invite them in, small teams, 15 people at a time. We have sessions. We've grown through those sessions. They've gained opportunities, and we've gained insight as to what we can do to make it easier to do business with MARTA. The next quarterly meeting, they come back with a new DBE who they introduce to the team, and that'll be the old DBE's last appearance, but they keep in touch with us through quarterly newsletters, and then the new DBEs become part of that core team. The point is that MARTA recognizes that we're a part of the community, and it's our goal to improve DBE representation in everything we do, and we can't do it in a silo. So we invite and encourage DBEs to come in and help us make that stronger. And on top of that, Ms. Paula Nash from MARTA is doing a fantastic job with our diversity and inclusion department in making sure that she tracks the numbers and tracks with every contract we let. She decides, and based on demographics and industry representation, what our DBE goals should be in each of these cases. And then contractors bid on that, and they establish whether or not they will meet those goals. And what we've started to do now is if contractors fail to meet those goals, that's part of a quarterly update we give publicly at the board. And so those contractors' efforts, positive or negative, are public record.
Okay, so is there a scoring preference for individuals who are located at the local or county level where MARTA actually does business?
No.
Okay, so is that something that you would be open to in terms of legislation?
We'll have a conversation about that, and we'll have our legal team look at it. Yeah. Currently, there are federal regulations that prevent us from doing that, but if there are innovative ways that you think that we might approach it, we're open to that conversation.
Okay, I'd like to have that conversation.
Sure. And on the stations issue, I want to point out that it wasn't that long ago that the state of MARTA's stations left a lot to be desired. We still have work to do. We've implemented a 3-phase program in our stations. It's the eyes on, hands on, and game on process. We've increased the number of staff touring the stations, made it everyone's responsibility, including executive team members. We've all adopted one station each, and we make a regular habit of going through and pointing out things that need to be improved. We've had a lot of commendation from the public in terms of them seeing the differences that we're making. We've started to increase the lighting levels at all of our stations, and a number of the stations in the downtown area have seen that, and we've heard, again, comments about what a difference that makes. We've changed the process in terms of when a call comes in, there's someone dedicated, a stations rep dedicated at our IOC to making sure that issue is resolved. And I will say that it is across the board. So the good, the bad, and the ugly is across the board in our 38 stations. I would push back on anyone trying to suggest that some areas of the city are worse treated than others. That we fight hard to make sure that we grow as a system. But thank you for the comments, and we will, of course, take that as encouragement to continue with those efforts.
Final thought, Mr. Chair. So I think that I know Sandy Springs doesn't have the challenges that the downtown quarters, such as 5 Points, in terms of the homeless and unsheltered population. So I'm not unrealistic. What I'm referring to is other stations that are on the southern part of the city. They don't mirror what you see in Lenox or Sandy Springs. And I'm simply saying that can we work to improve the aesthetics to which that they mirror something that you would see at Sandy Springs or those other quarters? I think that's something that we can, and the lighting piece is great.
Yeah. Martin Luther King Station, for example, is one that has been significantly improved. So, I mean, I remember holding an event there being at an event there 3 or 4 years ago and talking to the team, and then 2 years ago going back and just seeing, and for those that have seen it, that have recognized the difference, just an immense difference. It really, it's more than a coat of paint, but that goes a long way, but it's the attention to detail, as you pointed out, the odors in the station and getting new products that help us address that. Some of these stations are larger, more access points, a little more difficult to stay on top of, but thank you for your comments. We will continue to push on those.
I've also observed at the Sandy Springs location in Lenox that there's security often there, whereas the other stations, Lakewood and those, I've never seen any type of security presence
I mean,
in those quarters.
Thank you.
College Park.
Programmed approach, but our MPD will tell you that police are dispatched equally across the system, and then it's data driven. So there will be more police dispatched where the data says that more illicit activity is going on. The thing I will say though, is sometimes you won't recognize MPD because they are undercover, and so we just don't point them out in those cases. But point taken. Thank you.
I would like to add 2 things to what Councilmember Keisha Wade said. When I'm thinking about the restrooms, Oakland City, Lakewood, and West End Station, those are District 12 stations. West End, I kind of share a District 4. Is there a way we can open up the restrooms in the District 12 stations like the Sandy Springs stations?
I don't have each of the restrooms specifically etched in my mind.
Just those 3 stations.
So why don't we talk offline and you talk to me about those? Every one of our restrooms that are fit for use in terms of functioning are accessible, whether if there's an agent there, the restroom's accessible. If there's no agent there, then there's instructions on the door for what the patron must do. Make a phone call, have someone come in, unlock the door. Even that is cumbersome. And so we've talked here before about the smart restroom program, where all of our stations, all 38, will have restrooms because they'll be, we can monitor them remotely from the outside. We'll no longer need to send someone there to unlock the door for you. Of course, what happens if we do nothing and just open the restrooms, then the restrooms very quickly become unsightly and unsafe and unsecure. So we've got to do something. We've got this interim process in place, and the smart restroom program is in progress now. I'm not sure where we are in terms of which restrooms are slated for next, but if you and I talk offline, I can find out when those stations are slated and again, talk about priorities.
And I would just like to see if we can add it to the quarterly report, because I know as a council person since meeting 1, since quarter 1, me personally have been requesting restrooms be open, because I will always remember not being able to use the restroom and going into the bushes. And so my request is that the District 12 restrooms receive similar, whatever treatment Councilmember Keisha Wade just experienced when she went up to tour the other stations. Can my District 12 stations get what they got? So that means if we need police officers there, police officers. If we need an agent there, agents. I just want what they got.
So, we do this as a system, right? So I can't stand here and say I'm going to take care of District 12 because that's disingenuous to everybody else here. I'm going to take care of everybody in a very fair manner. And I can also tell you that the state of crime in the city today, I don't like the idea of parking police officers as washroom attendants, but we're working on better solutions than that.
I appreciate you. The next speaker is Councilmember Alex Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. CEO Greenwood, appreciate you being down here today. I wanted to ask about the more MARTA project updates, specifically the one in District 6, the Clifton Corridor project. Can you give me an update as to where we're at with that? I understand that that's waiting a board vote in order to enter the federal funding evaluation process. Just what can you tell me about that, please?
Sure. Better than that, I'll ask our Chief Capital Officer, Carrie Rocha, to step up and give you a brief update on Clifton.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Rocha. I am MARTA's Chief Capital Officer. While we progress multiple more MARTA projects, Clifton is also a priority for us. Currently, we are working with the FTA. We've made a request to start talking to CSX under an early acquisition process. In order to proceed with that process, they have provided us a response. They would like a NEPA checklist done specific to the real estate that we're looking to acquire. So we are working on that today.
what kind of time frame do you think that are we talking about on that?
I just got an update on this earlier in the week. So we do expect the checklist to go over to FTA by the end of this week. We need to give them 30 days to evaluate that request, and then we anticipate that they will give us the approval to move ahead and start talking to CSX, because as you know, our alignment is primarily along their alignment.
So walk me through a couple more steps further. That happens, we start conversation, or you start conversations with CSX. Is all this a prerequisite before any sort of board action? Again, the interest here is trying to start the time clock on the federal funding evaluation process while there is opportunity or an appetite in DC. Is that feasible for 24 or?
Absolutely. So it is our goal to get to the MARTA board with an LPA first quarter of 2024. One of the things we need to recognize, this is a new starts project as opposed to a small starts project, and there is a very stringent time clock on new starts. Within 2 years of us asking the FTA to enter PD, we must be completed with NEPA. So again, not knowing what the class of action would be, whether it's a EA or an EIS, we need to be very careful about when we enter PD, because we want to make sure that all the costs are reimbursable by FTA.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Again, I just love the narrative here between my district and then Councilmember Collier Overstreet's district in terms of connecting opportunities and folks looking for work to one of the largest employment centers in the city. I think that just is a real compelling reason, and I love the narrative there, but appreciate the update.
And I would ensure you, we are having those conversations with the mayor's office and with ATL DOT, looking at how our system fits all together. So making sure that what we're installing for Campbellton is really clearly going to make good connections for Clifton and all of the other systems we're working on.
Great. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, so Vice Chair Lewis had to leave for just a second. I'm going to fill in until he comes back. Our next speaker is Councilmember Amos.
Yes, sir. CEO Greenwood, thank you. You were not at the meeting that I actually thanked MARTA for coming out, walking the Vine City Station with me. It was a very comprehensive list that was made. Your team recognized some things I didn't even recognize, and actually got some answers to some questions we've been asking. So let's continue this partnership to make sure that the station is ready. I keep saying it on your slide, so when you bring it to us, I'm gonna bring it back to you. Streetcar West is not supported by this council member. Glad to see there has been no FY24 money spent as of today. So if there's somebody else I need to be speaking with instead of you, let me know so we can all be on the same page. But I have not seen anyone in the district that is looking for the issues that have happened with Streetcar East to come to the west side of the city of Atlanta. But more importantly, we got a chance to actually get a trial error. So with Copa 24, the Latin American soccer tournament that is coming to the Mercedes-Benz, we can use that as a trial run for the World Cup to see where we actually stand with welcoming the world to Vine City MARTA Station, because that's where people go to get off, go to the Benz, just in case you didn't know. So let's work together to see what we can do, not only with MARTA, we need to work with the Congress Center. Yeah. I say it again, I'm keep saying it until they answer. The traffic plan sucks on game days. It hurts my neighborhoods and all of my businesses in the neighborhood on the west side of Northside Drive. So we got a chance to actually do a practice run next year. Let's get together, see what we can do to
Bring
make
it on.
everyone.
I agree with you, and I'll say that, you know, organizers for some of the larger games like World Cup and even Olympics pay attention to how well we do with some of these interim opportunities. So it's important to us to shine in every one of these cases. We'll keep in touch and make sure that we're right there with you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Councilmember Mary Norwood.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I am interested in what the ridership is that is Northside Parkway across from North Atlanta High School. You've got 7 weekday boardings, and I just wonder what the stats are.
Yeah,
How many people are getting off the bus coming to North Atlanta? where are they coming from, which bus routes, how do they get there?
That-
We don't have a regional school, we have a district school, so I'm just curious as to what those numbers are.
The stats are there that we have 7 weekday boardings on average. We haven't, we can track alighting and give you those numbers as well. That's people that are getting off at that location. But when it comes to, what we're doing here with amenities is really focused on the people that stand there waiting for the bus. That's really.
Oh, and I appreciate
boardings,
the improvement in the amenities. I just am curious
Sure.
as to what kind of ridership we have coming to the school
On the 12th.
from wherever.
I'll get that to you. And so if it's specifically the 12 Howell Mill, the ridership on that route, we'll do that and then take any questions from there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Mayor Norwood. Councilmember Waits, before you speak, President Shipman asked, Councilmember Waits next.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lewis. Good morning, CEO Greenwood. Thanks for being here. I have a few questions on timing. Some of them you may not have a good sense, but there are several things you've updated us on. The bus network redesign. I know there are a couple of more steps beyond the design phase. Is there a working sense of the timing of when we may move to the next step and then when we actually may move to the end?
Yeah, so for a continuous update on that, it's more MARTA, 2040, Next Gen Bus 2040. I think it was on the slide, the actual website, so people can remain abreast of, daily progress on that. I won't say daily, but regular progress on that project. Also sharing with us, their desires for changes and service strategies in each of these areas. So that's where that information is found.
Okay. But do we have a sense of when we think it will land?
Next year, this time, we expect to have the service actually on the road. So everything we're doing now, it may have been sooner, but the level of participation that we had at some of our first round of public engagement was such that we thought more people need to be involved here. Typically with these kinds of things, folks will just kind of let it go until you actually start running the service and they say, what have you done? So we went back to the mill to make sure people are aware that this is big. We haven't done this in 40 years. It's going to affect service in your area. Niskey Lake is a prime example of one small change to one route having such an effect. Just imagine that across 110 bus routes. So anyway, to answer your question, a year from now.
Good, that's helpful. 5 points, working through the environmental, you talked to us about that. I'm assuming that some of the design decisions have to wait on the environmental process. So when do we get a sense, again, just sort of in general terms, when do we get a sense that we think the final design will be done? Because obviously there were a lot of conversations about some of the design elements with some of the council members.
Yeah, well, the design elements have largely been presented to the FTA. They're very particular about wanting to know all of our plans before they start to kind of opine on the environmental impact. So those have been submitted. FTA is really working hard to get something to us in the first quarter of next year, and as soon as we get their go-ahead, really what it is we have to engage in a level of public engagement and notification with photographic evidence of what the historic impact of 5 Points was and things like that, things of that nature. As soon as that's in place, they give us the go-ahead, we'll start the work of dismantling the canopy and in effect get into construction. So we're expecting that green light in the first quarter of 24.
Got it. So just from my perspective, the design basically is what has previously been presented.
9A refined, yeah.
That's been presented to the feds. The best case scenario is the feds say, okay, you're good to go. And then basically you can pretty quickly start construction once that's done.
Correct.
Okay. I attended, along with several of my council members, an update on the Beltline. You were there, you provided some updates. There was some talk around continuing the design around the east side expansion. Do we anticipate when a next round of design proposals for that for the east side expansion onto the Beltline of the streetcar will be ready? Because I know there's been some talk about beds and overhead wires and vehicles and such. When,
Sure, yeah.
Again, just sort of a general timing question. When do we sort of think that the next round of design may be?
Yeah, I haven't seen the schedule on that. I know that especially with Streetcar East Beltline, it really is an iterative process where we're talking to various groups. At this stage, I know that the city is receiving comments from, people in general. Let me get back to you on that to see if we've got a schedule of when we push next, because MARTA's role is to wait until we receive the kind of direction that says we're all aligned on this, and then we can start putting those plans together. Until then, it really is an information collection exercise.
Okay. ART on Cleveland Ave and Metropolitan, given the bidding situation, again, just a general kind of expectation on timing there for the next round of bids, and then when that might, sort of what's the implication on the timeline given that situation?
So we plan to go back out to them in early in 2024 to the market to get bids, and then in 2025, if all goes well, 2025 we expect that we'll have substantive progress, if not 2026, to have that completed.
Okay. Just two other quick questions. One more on timing. Audit time, you said you're scheduling interviews. Any sense of when those might wrap up? Obviously, I have a keen interest in the audit timing.
Yeah, well, what's your interest? I can say that they've started to schedule them. It really depends on how many interviews and, the breadth and depth of those discussions. It's the auditors that could really give us a good sense of when that might wrap up. We're at their will, and we'll, cooperate as they require. Just how many interviews they're going to do, I really wouldn't know.
Okay. And then finally, just on the ridership page, maybe if you just take a couple of minutes, how is Atlanta doing on ridership recovery relative to other cities? Is this typical? Are we ahead, behind? Just give us a sense.
That's a great question. It's something that I grapple with from time to time. I like to compare us to us in terms of how are we doing since COVID dropped, but it's a valid question. How are other cities doing now? I'm seeing reports, and the way ridership is reported can be different in various areas. We use average weekday daily ridership numbers, and then we go month over month, same year, or we go average year over year. So I comfortably say that we're at 58 and 68% rail and bus respectively in terms of where we've been to 2019. When COVID started, a lot of transit agencies were saying they're 30, 40% of pre-COVID ridership, and MARTA 2 was down below 50%. A number of agencies are right around where we are, but I have started to hear some progressive agencies, when I say progressive, I mean some of the larger agencies, start to report numbers in the 70s and close to 75% of pre-COVID. So one, I'm not sure if we're apples to apples in comparison, but two, I take solace in that because that means that transit writ large is something that will bounce back. There's an elasticity of demand, whether times are good or bad. And so I take that, plus the empirical evidence we have on our own chart that says we're not finished yet. This thing is going to continue to grow. And the other thing I'll say about ridership is, if we were just dealing with a finite population, then I would start to worry that the trend is flattening out. But the fact is the population growth in Atlanta supersedes that in many other areas. So even if we only get 60% of population riding, as that population increases, we'll be back to the point where we have more people than we know how to reasonably transport. So we have to continue working on the systems that make transit supportive and popular, and things I was talking about earlier, like making sure that the stations are clean and safe, continuing to do well with the MPD program. I failed to mention that they had another 15-17% reduction in Part 1 crimes. These are the things that make sure that people want to continue riding transit. Doing well in special events, like when Taylor Swift came to town, when Beyonce came to town, just kind of shining in those moments. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of organizing agencies that take a look at how we perform in those crushed conditions, and that will determine whether or not headquarters move to Atlanta, or if major events are held in Atlanta. All those kinds of things build the city, build the economic development, and in turn, it's cyclical, it in turn builds our ridership. Jacob Vallo's doing, heroes work on transit-oriented development, again, building development and housing and jobs close to the transit line. So all of these things means that we are not we're not in the same boat as a lot of other transit agencies. We are not, for lack of a better word, we're nowhere near stagnant. We're continuing to grow. That and the fact that our funding model is based largely on sales tax means that the idea of a fiscal cliff that other transit agencies are fearing, despite their reported improvements in ridership, that risk is not looming over our heads.
Good, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I think we had two more. Councilmember Keisha Waits, before you, you go first, and then Councilmember Marcy Carey Overstreet. Before you, Councilmember Dustin Hillis, he asked could he speak as well.
I'm happy to hear from
Okay, so Councilmember Dustin Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. CEO, thank you for the presentation. Just two questions on the Bankhead Station. One, I know in your More MARTA page stated this fiscal year is in the design phase, but I don't know if you have it here. Just get it to me maybe by the end of the day, but an update on the next steps and timeline for the expansion there,
Okay.
as well as the TOD project at that station.
Sure. Carrie, are you prepared to speak now? Okay, yeah, we'll get that to you at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up would be Councilmember Keisha Waits, then Councilmember Marcy Carey Overstreet.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to the conversation earlier. I have a specific interest in districts 3, 4, and 12, given the ridership dynamic. Oftentimes, I've noticed that for the suburban areas, individuals are attending special events or using it for the service for work and or airport visits. However, individuals who are coming from specifically 3, 4, and 12 are often utilizing the service because they don't have a vehicle or transportation. And so I think, again, is to stress that it's very important that those locations have access to a restroom, given that these are individuals who are coming from probably long distance and utilizing the services exclusively because they do not have access to transportation. So 3, 4, and 12, I'd like to have any data that you may have in terms of needed repairs, which locations have restrooms that are locked and or having challenges with getting them open for lack of security. I'd like to work together to work on that.
Well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilmember Marcy Carey Overstreet.
Vice Chair Lewis, I would like to request at the top of the year, the next MARTA, not today, because this is a very weighty conversation about the east side extension of the streetcar. I would like for MARTA to weigh in on the difference between the Beltline Rail now and the Better Atlanta Transit conversation that's happening now, really playing out in the media more than here at City Hall. So I just want to have MARTA weigh in on those questions, because there are some valid questions out there. I just read an article literally yesterday, and one of the questions stated about the streetcar extension: why are there only local taxpayer dollars and no federal funds used for the proposed downtown streetcar extension, East Car streetcar extension, and what data was used to make those decisions? And there are, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 more questions that I would like for council to actually have the answer on, because it is City of Atlanta taxpayer money. So at the top of the year or the next MARTA presentation, I would like to have some questions answered, or a presentation on just the East streetcar extension. If that's, how do you feel about that?
So, we're happy to come at our jurisdictional briefings, and you can help us set the agenda in terms of what you'd like to hear about. So,
Okay.
Streetcar East can definitely be, one of the topics on the agenda. I will say up front that, if there are community interest groups, especially divergent opinions from community interest
Right.
groups, That's not the space that your objective transit provider should be opining on. So I said a couple of years ago that our role in this is to, once the process has yielded which direction we're going in terms of locally preferred alternative, and then we get in gear and we build it. We make it happen. We're the technical advisors, but I don't envy the position that some of the policymakers are in, because there's a loud cry on both sides. And personally, I respect the opinions of both sides, and so that's what makes it difficult for me to sit in your seat and try to come to a consensus on this thing. But we'll speak to it, and we'll assure you that when the consensus has been reached, we'll get it in gear, and people will start complaining about us and the amount of mess we're making in putting these things in place. But that's good noise. That's progress. That's ripping up roads and all of that. But until we get to that point, it's largely going to be about the policymakers really being able to combine those divergent opinions into one action plan.
Okay, so I agree with what you're saying. I don't envy us either, because it is a conversation that is hard to have without all of the information that we need. So I will definitely look into questions for both sides.
Sure.
And come up with some that really sit with me,
Okay.
so that I'll be able to intelligently have a conversation with anyone that comes before me about why we're doing what we're doing.
That's a great approach.
So I'll get that information to you, but just, transportation is my favorite committee, so I'm hoping that I will be here in January to actually weigh in and hear it. Oh, y'all got that, didn't you? Okay. All right, so, that's that. Thank you. I yield.
And wherever you're seated, we'd be happy to continue the conversation with you regardless.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll have transportation is my favorite committee, President Shipman. I've been on here for 2 years as vice chair for 2 years. So,
You may want to take a show of hands, Mr. Vice Chair.
and today was Blue Shirt Day too. One last thing, Mr. Greenwood, I appreciate you for coming in and answering all questions as always. For being, I appreciate you for that. I know you have to take a holistic, fully approach when you look at the city of Atlanta, but we are district council members, and so we have to fully represent and stand up for our districts. And so I think that when I say, and Councilmember Norwood has schooled me on separating the city of Atlanta, and that's why I said Sandy Springs Station, right? I'm very pointed. I just want what they got. And so what I mean is, if they got colleges around their station, if they got whatever they got around their stations, when a person goes there, they can use the restroom without calling somebody. And so when I go to Lakewood, since I was a kid, I'm 36 right now, since I was 5, 6 years old catching Lakewood Station with my auntie, we always had to dial 000 and people didn't come up to let us use the restroom. My aunt would block the bushes. I would go into the bushes. These are real things. We got Clark Atlanta in here right now. They go to West End train station. They can't use the restroom. And so I just want them to walk in, just like at Sandy Springs, just like at Lenox, and be able to use the restroom without the things. And that's me fighting for my district.
I fully applaud that.
And on something Councilmember Keisha Sean Waite said on the DBE program, the city of Atlanta created a DBE program for America. We take credit in Maynard Jackson. We take credit in saying what he did for America. And so I think we always got to lead the route. I know when we had the attorney come up and speak about the federal funding, I would like to, because you just mentioned that the reason our agency is having the same issues that other agencies are having is because we have a special tax that helps us out. And so since our agency, go ahead.
Sales tax, not a special tax.
Since we have a sales tax, that means you don't have the same worries that other agencies have, right? I mean, you just said that.
That's correct.
And so I would say when we talk about the DBE program and helping people from Fulton County and DeKalb County that built MARTA, helping the stations that is actually in, helping the cities that is actually in, people from those cities, I think that if we're using city funding, that special sales tax funding,
That's a state tax.
a state, I think that the people from our area should have extra points. and not using the federal funding, not things that were federal matches, if there any way that we can look at the stuff that comes from the special sales tax from Atlanta, giving extra points in the DBE program for people from here, can we look at that?
So for the sake of brevity, these are questions that, we cannot dismiss. We will sit down with you and walk through the program in terms of how sales tax is apportioned. It is a state fund, not a city fund. And then we'll, where required, we will still have to talk to you about, federal taxation laws and all of that. But, I don't want to dismiss any of that. I think it's more important to hear your ideas, and then we'll walk through what's the realm of possibilities.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I know that, once again, we said this is the last council meeting, committee meeting I'll chair this year, and the one the one extra thing we added, similar to how the city of Atlanta used to be, is when the public actually heard some of these reports from agencies and from departments, they were allowed to ask questions on the back end. And since we didn't see any complaints, any abstentions from this body, for 4 minutes only, if there may not be any questions out there, if for 4 minutes we would like to open up for each member who comes up, we're going to open up for 4 minutes, can ask a question that they may answer. Sure. 1 second before we get this, we got the people, they got to work it out back here now. So if there are no objections to this one person or two people who are going to have a question from my council body, I'll take unanimous consent. Are there any objections to this? No objection. So I think we won this one battle. And so we'll bring up the first speaker, and you'll state your full name. And I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Greenwood, for being open for this. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Brooks, and
You get 1 minute, if that.
1 minute.
Well, we'll open up the 4-minute time clock, because at the end of the 4 minutes, we'll start our regular agenda.
Yes, my name is Jennifer Brooks, and I live downtown. And to echo what Councilmember Overstreet said earlier about MARTA being aware of the people who need MARTA most, I'm always concerned about the workforce commuters in my neighborhood. I live in the Central Business and Hospitality District, and I really worry about street closures for special events when they affect bus routes and the paratransit, the MARTA mobility vans, and the streetcar. And I just wonder if MARTA can push back against authorizing permits for street closures when it affects the workforce in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer.
All right, thank you for that question. And let me just preface. I appreciate the fact that this is a change in format and you've kind of socialized it through your peers. For obvious reasons, MARTA's, it's not as straightforward for MARTA to stand up here and go into open public questions in this format. MARTA does have an open door policy, so if there are questions or concerns that the public wants to reach out to MARTA, we have a very robust engagement process, and we do we do follow through on that, and I would invite anyone with a question. I just was interested to see how many people were going to, come forward on that. But so two things. I will answer the specific question in a way that that makes it clear that we do have a process, but then I will say that that's the only time that MARTA will entertain this kind of a format. We will return to the format that we've all known and agreed to, but to stand here and go, toe-to-toe with the public on, that was a very good question, that was a very responsible question, and I appreciate it, but you never know what you're gonna get. So that's, we're not coming here for the open public forum status. But on that question, MARTA does participate with the DOT and other civic entities to make sure that when we talk about construction and when we talk about parades and special events, that there's a coordination effort. There have been times when MARTA has said, look, we're not shutting down the streetcar for another parade. We're not mitigating our maintenance window on the subway so that we can run trains longer, or things to that nature. We do have to maintain safety and maintain a decorum of service. So there are times when plans and street closures conflict with those things. So we do have a process. We do have an engagement team that sits down and works these things through. We understand that the best transit network would run, without any interference, any parades, and any construction, but we also realize that those are realities of life in a big city. So we do work together, we make those things happen, and I hope that suffices for the question that was asked. And again, I would invite the speaker to contact us if there are more details required. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. Greenwood. We're gonna let Councilmember Keisha Wade speak, then we're gonna end this process. And I appreciate you for being open to it. I will let you know that this is how the city council used to work. And so if I'm the chair of a city, we get to set the rules on this side. If I'm the chair of a city council meeting, we'll probably change the rules a little. Just alter it to make it more of the people house like it used to be. Great. Councilmember Keisha Wade.
Mr. Chairman, I second that. I believe that this is the appropriate forum to have those conversations. MARTA mobility. One of the complaints that I have seen is that when you reach out to schedule the service, that there's a huge range in terms of pickup times. And so therefore you really cannot use the service because I think it's a 4-hour window or something to that effect. And the second one is accessibility, that they don't necessarily go and or pick up everywhere. And finally, very few people seem to be informed that the service even exists. And so how are we promoting the MARTA mobility? And is it something that we can promote on the city's social channels, social media, and probably a story in terms of what the services are? But the complaint is that when you call them, that you're often left there waiting for extended periods of time, and that they have a very small range in terms of where the service actually goes to.
Thank you for that question. MARTA Mobility will operate anywhere fixed route operates. So within a half mile, I believe the measure is, of fixed route, MARTA Mobility is available. So wherever we run, MARTA Mobility is available. To the question of how do we, let people know that it's a service that exists, it is a fully functioning part of our fixed route, part of our service in addition to fixed route. So yes, any social media notification is welcome. Anytime you go on itsmarta.com, you'll see that there's a MARTA Mobility section. I guess it is less known because what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, the fit. In other words, not everyone, eligibility, that's the word. Not everyone's eligible for MARTA Mobility, so it's a smaller service. But in terms of ridership and demand, it's like I said, streetcar and MARTA Mobility are the two modes that are now back to pre-COVID ridership. So the popularity amongst the population that depends on it is not lost on them. We continue to make improvements in that service. We are returning now to our 90% on-time performance after a brief hiatus away from that. But we are working towards business model changes that make sure that we can narrow the window between call time and call time. The amount of time you wait on the phone is one of the key KPIs of the MARTA Mobility. So again, at top of my head, I think it's, calls that exceed 2 minutes waiting, and then we track all of that. So I can go ahead and look and see if that performance is actually diminished. but every time I have checked in the past, we have been on target or approaching target.
Perfect. And lastly, when individuals have complaints regarding a station or an experience, where does that information go? Is there a website or
Yeah, there's a
email address?
There's a complete department of a customer engagement department that takes those, so you can call MARTA. You can go on the website at itsmarta.com. You can lodge your complaint, and someone will get back to you and tell you about the progress of your complaint, or they'll be able to answer you right away. And we have an engagement team that answers the phone, something like 12 hours a day, and then you'll get if it's outside of office hours, you'll get a call back.
So is this posted in all of the stations throughout the city?
I don't know if anyone can tell me if it's posted in the stations, but it certainly is a live feature on the website.
So can we post that in all of the stations so that this information can go directly to MARTA, so the individuals are not coming here to relay that third party?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure that if it's not already done, we'll make sure that there's a public avenue that they know how to reach MARTA more frequently. I will say that that customer information team is busy all the time, so people do know about it, but not everyone. So we'll double down on those efforts to get that visibility out there. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Johnson, we'll go to section G, and we'll file this report. Mr. Johnson, can you please sound the communication?
Item number 123C 5124, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Wesley Brown to serve as a member of the Stakeholder Oversight Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Will Mr. Wesley Brown please come to the podium, please?
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
I'm unfamiliar with what's expected of me here.
Please tell us why you want to serve.
Oh, no problem. I'm Wesley Brown. I currently work at the Vecino Group, which is an affordable housing developer company. I previously served Central Atlanta Progress for 10 years in a capital projects role. I see the connections between housing and transportation as critical to our city, and I'm hoping that with my input, we can lead the transportation dollars to go further.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee? Move approval. It's been moving properly second by Councilmember 1. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
This takes us to Section H, ordinance for second reading. Item number 223-01582, an ordinance by council members Jason Dozier, Michael Julian Bond, Andrea L. Boone, Antonio Lewis, and Byron D. Amos is amended by Transportation Committee to rename Beckwith Street Southwest, starting from Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard to Beckwith Court Southwest, and Beckwith Court Southwest to Martin Luther King Jr. Drive to Dr. Thomas W. Cole Jr. Way, to waive certain provisions of Section 138-8 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Are there any questions? Councilmember Byron Amos? Councilmember Keyshawn Waits, do you want to speak to this? Okay. Councilmember Byron Amos?
Yes, sir. I just want to say thank you to my colleagues. This originally popped up on our full council meeting, and we had to refer it back to this committee. Want to be able to say that all conversations that needed to be held has been had. We are all on the same page, and I would like to make a motion to approve to send this on back to full council.
It's been moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. Second by Councilmember 1.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Mr. Brown, before you proceed, congratulations, Mr. Johnson, before you proceed, Mr. Wesley Brown, congratulations. You don't have to come back to the next council meeting and committee meeting. Congratulations, you're good. You can go home if you want to, or you can enjoy it. You can enjoy it today. Please proceed. And,
Item number 3, 23-0.
and one more thing, Mr. Johnson. I feel like we have someone here to speak to this legislation that we just passed on the street renaming.
No, I want to speak on the renaming of Beckwith Street. Is that next on the agenda? It's
So
not.
I don't think we can allow that right here.
Okay.
Look this way. I don't think we can allow that, but it did just pass. That legislation just passed through, and we will be after going to the full council meeting. It will be passed to name the street at the full council meeting this week. So congratulations, Clark Atlanta University. Congratulations on the renaming of the street. Well, Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
Item number 3, 23-01642, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a lease agreement with American Airlines Incorporated for 1220 Toffee Terrace Building B and employee parking at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, waiving lease of city-owned real property requirements contained in Section 2-1547, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Is there a so move? It's moving properly. Second by Councilmember One. Please. Is there anything from the department? I apologize.
Hi, good morning. I am Tyrania Smith, Assistant General Manager of Commercial Revenue for the airport. Again, this is just legislation seeking approval of a lease agreement with American Airlines. It's a 5-year term with a 1-year, 5-year renewal option.
Okay. So moved by me. Second by Councilmember One. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Overstreet was a yes.
Would everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
One moment. Item number 4, 23-01645, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki, authorizing the City of Atlanta to waive the competitive procurement source selection provisions contained in Section 2-1187 of the Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions to obtain continued services for the Department of Aviation with A National Limousine Incorporated, doing business as Airport Shuttle Group, for terminal-to-terminal shuttle services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on a month-to-month basis not to exceed 6 months, and amount not to exceed $3,227,599.00. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein, and for other purposes.
So moved. It's been moving properly. Second, Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 5, 23-01648, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the City of Atlanta to waive the competitive procurement source selection provisions contained in Section 2-1187 of Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions on behalf of the Department of Aviation to ratify services rendered in connection to agreement listed herein. ATL history of the Atlanta Airport with Gary Lee Super Design Associates beginning June 1st, 2023, and to execute the Amendment Number 1 to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a term up to 20 months, retroactively effective June 1st, 2023 through February 1st, 2025, and for other purposes.
Second. It's been moving properly. Second, Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. Well, is there anything from Mr. Johnson? Please open the vote.
One moment. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Mr. Chair, item number 6 requires a substitute. The substitute change the caption. Can there be a motion to bring forth a substitute?
So moved. Second. Moved and properly second. Moved by Councilmember One, second by Councilmember Lewis. Please bring forward the substitute. Please open the vote.
One moment. The vote is open. The vote is closed. Six yeas, 0 nays. This item, the substitute is before you. The substitute increases the dollar amount and adds updated changes to the account stream. Item number 623-01653, an ordinance by Councilmember Mary Norwood as substituted by Transportation Committee, an ordinance authorizing the mayor as designee to enter into Amendment 1 for contract listed herein, 2021 Lamig Street Resurfacing Project Group 1 North with Stewart Brothers Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to add funding in an amount not to exceed $3,343,952.66 for the transportation infrastructure improvement projects on Howell Mill Road, Beverly Road, Blackland Road, West Wesley Road, Bolton Road, Putnam Road, and all contracted work will be charged to and paid from various fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
And I make a motion to approve on condition. We're still working on the final amount from various accounts. The department has done a tremendous amount of work on this, and I'm very appreciative. We want to have it sent on condition that we get the last little pieces buttoned up.
It's been moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Favorable on substitute on condition. One moment. This takes us to section I, resolutions. Item number 723R 4545, a resolution by
I
Council.
apologize. We had one. I apologize, Mr. Johnson. Councilmember Overstreet had one question.
So as to not, change I'm not going to change my vote or anything for for that paper, but, I do want a few things. And I think that we have asked for this, and I'm not sure that I've received it. But I would also like to have a list of the projects and where we are in the process of the list of the LMIG. I think that's important for all council members to have, actually, not just the Transportation Committee, but I think someone has asked for this before, and I still hadn't seen it. So I'd like to see that.
And so I think
that would go to
ATL DOT. So if we can have someone, I know we have Mr. Moore here to.
I've also asked for a list of sidewalk installations that happen in the district. I accumulate everything every year, and I still don't have that. And so I need that as well. But I definitely want to get this LMIG list and see where we are with the projects on it.
Yeah, Greg Moore, Deputy Commissioner, Capital Delivery for ATL DOT. That's not a problem, ma'am.
Let's talk in full sentences. Tell me, what's not a problem? Which part? All of it?
I will go back and we'll have further discussion on the sidewalk just to get more detail exactly what you're looking for, but the status of all the roads across north and south can be provided to council.
I appreciate that. And the LMIG list?
Yes, ma'am. That'll be inclusive of the status.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have all the roads listed.
All right. By, how long do you think that'll take?
I should be able to give you a status by council on Monday.
Okay, good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
That's
you.
regularly updated, so that's not a problem.
All right. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for coming up.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moore, is this the same interactive tool that you trained me on last week?
So,
because they have a new tool that I think that that you're gonna like. So is that the?
No, so the one that you saw in council conference room was the Moving Atlanta Forward dashboard.
So if we can create one of those for the for what Ms. Councilmember Overstreet is talking about right now, that I think that would help me as well.
Well, we're actually working on developing the dashboard for the entire capital delivery.
Yeah.
So that will be inclusive of Renew, T-Splosh 1.0, 2.0, Moving Atlanta Forward, LMIG, anything Capital's working on.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do you have anything else?
No, thank you.
All minds are clear? Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
Section I, resolutions, item number 7, 23R 4545, resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement with Precision 2000 Incorporated for agreement listed herein, Joseph E. Lowery, Complete Street and TCC on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 1 year with 2 one-year renewal options, an amount not to exceed $4,622,909.55. All contract work we charge to and pay from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein, and for the purposes. Mr. Vice Chair, this item need to be held to receive the IPRO report.
Any comment from the moving properly second? Please open the vote. It's moved by Councilmember One and second by Councilmember Amos.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held in committee. Item number 8, 23R 4547, a resolution by council members Andre L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Michael Julian Bond, and Matt Westmoreland, urging the airport general manager or his designee to adopt a plan to provide assistance and support services for unhoused individuals who seek shelter at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, including entering into an emergency procurement agreement with the qualified service provider, and provide outreach and identify the specific services needed and for other purposes.
Can I add my name to this paper?
One moment.
Some motion. Motion to amend to add my name. Anyone else want to add their name to this paper? It's been second by Councilmember One. We have one board member waiting to speak.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays.
Before you open the vote, Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet has something.
Just wanted to say that the reason this paper is necessary is because we're hearing reports that we have a homeless population that needs our help at the airport in the atrium. So I think this will help us help them as well as the customers that frequent our airport. So that's what this paper is about.
And
So
thank
move
you.
approval.
I
Vote is
second.
closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
Yep. And,
Oh.
and before we bring forth as we bring forth the new legislation, before we talk about, is there anything from the department?
Mr. Vice Chair, there needs to be a motion to approve as amended.
So moved by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, second by Councilmember Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended.
So we have something from the airport.
Mr. Vice Chair, City Council Member B.B. Odari, Airport General Manager. When this paper does come to the airport, we will consult with a lot to make sure that we're not violating any federal regulatory requirement as it pertains to revenue diversion, etc. But we're very supportive of looking after and taking care of that population that does show up at the airport. We have a number of initiatives that is underway right now, and we do have initiative in place with the HOPE program and coordinating with Martin and stuff like that, and how we handle this population in terms of transportation, shelter during cold nights. And right now we're soliciting for another contract to continue that HOPE help that we do provide to the population. So we welcome the paper. We'll look at it, look at the legality, make sure it's not conflicting with any federal regulations.
I have one more thing.
Councilmember Marcy Carr Overstreet.
Yeah, so, thank you for that update, for sure. And I just want to also put PAD on your radar because we have an investment of $4.5 million in with PAD at this time. So maybe they can also be part of those conversations because until we actually come up with a permanent solution, I definitely think we can plug them in there because of the investment that the city has already made in this time.
Absolutely, and we also, we are looking into the legality and revenue. My chief financial officer has been coordinating with the FAA to see if we could be a part of the PAT program so that we have a place that is dedicated to the population that shows up at the airport. When we do transport, that they have a place where we could take them to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Keisha Sean Waits.
Ms. Overstreet addressed the concern I had.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
Item number 9, 23R 4551, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood authorizing the mayor or designee to execute an agreement listed herein, intersection improvement projects on Morris Mill Road at 2 locations with BRTU Construction Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 1 year with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $4,294,491.74. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization account number listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Vice Chair, this item will need to be held to receive the ACPO report.
Been moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Alex One, second by Councilmember Mary Norwood. The sponsor, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held in committee. Item number 1023R 4552, a resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to correct resolution 23R 3616 adopted by the Atlanta City Council on June 5th, 2023 and approved per City Charter Section 2-403 on June 14th, 2023 by deleting the incorrect funding sources and replacing it with the correct funding sources. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the account listed herein and for other purposes.
Pardon me? Mr. Johnson, please, is there a first and a second? So move. Second by, all right. We have a question from Councilmember Dustin Hillis first. Is that? It's not been second yet, I apologize. It's been moved, no, I'll second. It's been moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Well, before the vote, we have a question from Councilmember Dustin Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, DC Moore. Just for clarity, on this resolution, number 1, everything has been vetted now. I know there were some questions when it was received because Deputy Chief of Staff had just received it at 11:30 before the previous council meeting. So all the funding sources, they've been verified by either finance or law, and this is good to go. And secondly, is this the fix to where the north and south accounting streams were flipped?
So Greg Moore, Deputy Commissioner, Capital Delivery, ATL DOT. To your first question, has it been reviewed? Yes. This legislation there were not additional funding sources being added to this legislation. This legislation is purely correcting an administrative error from the original legislation. So originally the north contract accounts were put on the south contract, the south put on the north. So this legislation is purely flipping those to correct that so that the right amounts are on each contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So we have one more board member who wants to speak. 1 second, it will be Councilmember Mary Norwood.
Colleagues, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider what we just held in committee 23R-4551. And the reason I would like to do that is we only have one more council meeting. If we don't move this forward on condition, that I meet with the department and get everything worked out by Monday, then it won't come back to council until January.
And 1 second, before we go there, we have a motion on the floor that's been properly moved in second that we have to go through first.
Okay.
Before we go there. So, Mr. Johnson, can you please open the vote?
Mr. Chair, the item that we currently voted on, it was favorable 6 yeas, 0
Gotcha.
nays.
So we're on this one. Gotcha. So she wants to bring,
A motion to reconsider.
and we have one more question we have another conversation coming up from Councilmember Marcy Carter Overstreet on this. Gotcha.
Yes, the motion to reconsider. Yeah, so my question is, because we were in a posture of correcting what we had been doing wrong at the beginning of the year, where we don't just send things to full council that aren't ready, including an APRO report. So I would have to say no to the motion because it's not ready. Is it?
What Councilmember Overstreet's, or what Councilmember Norwood is.
So one second, I apologize. So I asked for a second before we move forward. So we had a first by Councilmember Norwood, and I'll second, so that we can keep this conversation going. Mr. Moore, please.
All right. So I'll guess further develop the conversation going on, is that the one item being looked into right now is the available balance that is being called out for one council member's discretionary, whether it's renew or moving Atlanta forward. And so that's just a simple check that's getting fixed.
So that's not the answer. So the paper, you're saying that we are completely ready except for her discretionary fund?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
paper?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, not the APRO or
No.
anything?
No.
Okay. All right, well,
It's simply a change. It's simply a review of 2015 versus.
so that was the only
2022.
reason you were holding it the first time?
Yeah.
Was because of that? Okay.
And I'll add in one thing from legal: it can't move out of committee without the iPro report. That's what I was just told.
So I will say that we always have known that it can move. We just decided as a body that we weren't going to do that anymore in assumption that it will be ready by Monday. Councilmember Juan, do you remember that? Okay.
Councilmember Overstreet, can we move this on condition?
Of course, I'm fine moving it on
Thank you
condition.
so much.
I'm just making sure that for the record, if I need something moved on condition and waiting on anything, we remember today.
Yes. and sometimes, and I want to add something to that. I think sometimes that sometimes the attorneys and the parliamentarians, they give us their opinion, and we as a body, we get to get to hear, and we get to become the people that was elected to come up here and make some decisions. So I understand what you're saying, knowing that we can move stuff without the iPro report. So we are right now moving properly second, but we just said it can't move, but we just found out it can move without the iPro report. So what we gonna do? Open up the vote, please. Well, it's been motioned to reconsider. It was moved by Councilmember Norwood, second by Councilmember Lewis.
Mr. Vice Chair, the vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item
And
has
the
been
motion is to
reconsidered.
move it forward on condition. Approval on condition.
Second. And we have a speaker, Councilmember Alex One wants to speak.
Thank you. I'd like to get an idea of when we're going to get the IPA report. I agree with Ms. Collier Overstreet. This is a bad habit to get in. I don't mind, so long as we don't get it an hour before our meeting on Monday. So I want to tighten the condition even further, that we get it Friday at the latest so that we can review it. We've seen examples in this very committee of things that get missed when we don't look at the IPA report. So I would ask if Ms. Norwood would consider tightening the condition up to put a deadline of the IPA on Friday. If not, then I actually agree with Ms. Collier Overstreet. I probably would not support
That's fine. I accept your
Thank you.
I accept your condition. Move forward on condition that we get the report by Friday. Okay.
We look like we're having some fun on my day. So it's been moving properly forward. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Please continue.
Mr. Vice Chair, can you put the mover and the seconder?
The mover was Councilmember Mary Norwood. The seconder was Councilmember Lewis. I think it moved. I think it was 6-0 there. On the reconsideration?
Yep.
6-0. So all council members voted in favor of it.
So this is the vote is to move on condition for the APRO report.
Yes, yes. This vote is to move.
The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 1 abstention. The item is favorable on condition.
Mr. Johnson, please proceed. Thank you.
Item number 1123R 4553, a resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis requesting the mayor or his designee to place parking restrictions on Ellsworth Industrial Boulevard Northwest from the public streets northern terminus to approximately the shared property line between 1778 and 1788. Ellsworth Industrial Boulevard Northwest prohibit parking on both the northbound and southbound side of the street, to install signage at the appropriate locations along the prohibited area, and to restripe all markings and place appropriate signage along Ellsworth Industrial Boulevard Northwest from its northern terminus to Chattahoochee Avenue Northwest, and for other purposes. And Mr. Vice Chair, the sponsor requested this item be filed.
Moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Wans, second by Councilmember Amos. Does the sponsor have anything you want to say to this?
Just that the reason for it being filed is I was informed after the introduction by ATL DOT that there's a requirement for it to be an ordinance since the street is more than a certain number of feet wide. So I'll be reintroducing it as such on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is filed on committee. Mr. Vice Chair, if there is no objection, can we take items 12 and 17 together?
Please do.
Item number 12, 23R 4554, a resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis requesting the mayor or designee to install traffic calming devices on North Grant Avenue Northwest between Donald L. Hollowell Parkway Northwest and 6th Street Northwest, and for other purposes. Item number 17, 23R 4564, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or designee to install traffic calming devices on Lyman Street Northeast from Hosea L. Williams Drive Northeast to Wade Avenue Northeast, and for other purposes.
So move. Second by Mr. Wan. Councilman Wan, please open the vote. Mr. Johnson, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable.
Pardon me. Please proceed.
Item number 13, 23R 4560, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Daniel Avenue Southeast from Memorial Drive Southeast to West Far Road Southeast, and for other purposes. Mr. Vice Chair, this item needs to be amended. The amendment removes the directional of West Far Road and makes minor revisions throughout the legislation.
So move. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
One is yes.
Wait.
The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended.
Please proceed, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Vice Chair, we need a motion to approve as
So
amended.
move. Second by Mr. Amos. Please bring forward the legislation.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended. Mr. Vice Chair, if there is no objection from the committee, can we take items number 14, 15, 16 together as a block? These are for the installation of stop signs.
So move.
Item number 1423R4561, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Gaskill Street Southeast and Ty Street Southeast and always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes. Item number 1523R4562, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or designee to make the intersection of Gresham Avenue Southeast and Pendleton Avenue Southeast and always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes. Item number 1623R4563, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari requesting the mayor or designee to make the intersection of Leslie Street Southeast and George W. Brumley Way Southeast and always stop control intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes.
So move. Moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
Lewis and Juan. The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Item number. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Please proceed. Oh, we have one question from Mr. Alex Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Colleagues, I've been informed by law, the paper, Ms. Norwood's paper, we need to reconsider that and move it forward with no recommendation versus approval on condition. It's a technicality, but it's just it's a cleaner way of doing that. So I'm going to make a motion to reconsider 23R4551.
And the only thing I'm waiting for, if Councilmember Norwood was here, and I think that's the, and I even hope we can hold this until she comes back up, and then we had Councilmember Overstreet had some.
I need a little more information than that. What do you mean by cleaner?
Sure. By code, what the code says is council shall not approve legislation for contracts without having received IPRO first. My original interpretation or the thought was perhaps that means full council, but the distinction is that full council adopts, committees approve. So the inference here is that committees shall not approve legislation for contracts without having received IPRO first. We can move it forward with no recommendation with the condition, so it has the same effect of going to Monday, but it does not technically violate code with the way the code is written.
Can I? And I like that you said that that it says council and we're in committee because words matter so much. It's crazy. I learned that so much at home being married to an attorney, and so words do matter. And it says council, not committee. And I would like to keep it going forward because it does says council in the statute, not committee, and we're in a committee. And so we can, one attorney may interpret that as that, and one attorney may interpret that as the other. And the one thing I keep getting told is any lawyer can tell you no. A good lawyer job is to try to find a yes. And so all we're getting is no's, and
Yeah, again, I think this has the same effect of getting it to Monday out of our committee with the condition, and we get the IPRO by Friday, but it's just, we don't want to be in a posture where it could be inferred if there is a cleaner path out. So we'll wait till Councilmember Norwood gets back.
So actually, it's not the same effect because moving something without condition is not the same as moving it without recommendation on. Okay, So your motion will be, your new motion after reconsider would be what exactly?
So it would be to move it forward with no recommendation, so we, and then with the condition.
With condition,
Yeah,
okay.
condition
I'm
must
just trying to
remain.
make sure we keep that condition, because if not, then we're on the honor system, and we all know that doesn't work. All right.
Councilmember, okay. And so we're going to try to hold that until the moment we see her, we'll bring it back up. Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
This takes us to item, Mr. Vice Chair, can we take items 18 and 19 together as a block? As
Please
requested
proceed.
per the
Yes, sir.
department?
Yes, sir.
Item number 1823R4566, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to issue task order number listed herein under contract number FC 10641N, job order contracting services with Soco Contracting Company Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for sidewalk repairs at 3230 W Roxborough Road in amount not to exceed $129,601.17. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, account number listed herein, and for other purposes. Item number 1923R4567, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as needed to issue task order number listed herein under contract number FC 10276, job order contracting consulting services with the Gordian Group Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to pay for the license fees for sidewalk repairs at 3230 W Roxborough Road in amount not to exceed $5,948.69. All contract will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes.
So move. It's been moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable. Item number 20, 23R.
And so before we move forward, Councilmember Norwood rejoined us, and she's going to make.
Okay, I understand that law would like us to reconsider and to send this paper forward with no recommendation.
On condition.
On condition, yes. So that's my first motion is to reconsider. Can I have a second? And so reconsider.
It's been moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. And that is, could you please state the question to Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Vice Chair, if I read item number 9 again for the public.
I apologize. Yes, sir.
Item number 9, 23R4551, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood authorizing the mayor as designee to execute an agreement listed herein, intersection improvement projects on Moores Mill Road at 2 locations and with BRTU Construction Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 1 year with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $4,294,491.74. All contract will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes.
And looking, Councilmember Norwood moved. Councilmember, go ahead.
Move forward with no recommendation.
I apologize.
Mr. Vice Chair, we're on the motion to reconsider. We need a motion and a second for
Gotcha.
reconsider.
So please open the vote.
Mr. Vice Chair, we need a seconder.
The seconder was Mr. Vaughn.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to reconsider passes.
And my motion is to move this paper forward with no recommendation on condition.
Second. It's been moving properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
One moment. Give us one moment. The vote vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is forwarded with no recommendation on condition. This takes us to item number 20, 23R4568, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to execute amendment number 1 for contract listed herein, GSA cooperative agreement with Vertosoft for Workiva Cloud Services for the Connected Government Financial Reporting Solution with WData utilizing the GSA contract listed herein for the Department of Aviation in an amount not to exceed $148,375.00. All contract will be charged to and paid from the account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 21, 23R4569, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to exercise renewal option number 2 for agreement listed herein, Transportation Network Company Tracking and Compliance Services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with the American Association for Airport Executives on behalf of the Department of Aviation for a term of 2 years in amount not to exceed $297,600.00. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Moving properly second, moved by Councilmember 1, second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote. Oh, is there anything from there? Is there anything from the airport?
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis. Tyrania Smith, Assistant General Manager of Commercial Revenue at the airport. Again, this is just exercising the second and final renewal option for our TNC service tracking system, and this is for our TNC's Lyft, Uber, and Her vehicles.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
All right.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 22, 23R4570, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to execute agreement for project number listed herein, Quarry Stabilization and Wildlife Deterrent at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with BRTU Construction Incorporated on behalf of the Department of Aviation, an amount not to exceed $17,902,647.08. All services will be charged to and paid from the account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Move approval.
Mr. Vice Chair, the motion is to hold in order to receive the IPRO report.
Motion to hold until we receive IPRO report. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. Moving properly second. Second by Councilmember Juan.
The vote is open.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, he made a motion and I second. So can you withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my
that
motion.
you make and move forward.
I'll withdraw my motion to move forward, and we'll accept the motion from Councilmember Juan and my second.
One moment. Yeah. Amos and Juan. Amos and Lewis. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Item is held in committee. Item number 23, 23R 4571, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to expand or contract the exclusive use premises and preferential and use premises of certain airlines by more than 5,000 square feet as a result of the Concourse D widening project at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for other purposes.
It's been properly second, moved by Councilmember One and second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 2423R4572, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor as needed to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Georgia Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for the purpose of setting forth the terms under which the parties agree to operate and maintain the fiber optic infrastructure being installed as part of the Summerhill BRT project and for other purposes.
Move approval. Second. It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Vice Chair, we have one item coming off held. Item number 34 on page 12. 23R4352, an amended resolution by Councilmember Amir Faroki authorizing the mayor as needed to execute an agreement with A&B All-in-One Security Services Incorporated for agreement listed herein. Ground transportation terminal to terminal shuttle services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport in the amount not to exceed $1,455,695.0 for the management fee and the compensation for the services provided under the agreement established in the Department of Aviation's annual and fiscal year operating budgets. All services will be charged to and paid from the account number listed herein and for other purposes. In the
Motion is to file.
Second.
Moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Amos. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. This item is filed by committee. Mr. Vice Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, committee members. Is there anything from the committee? Let's go.